Peace. And I was asked to introduce this session, the session of 25th October 2021 of the Cairo Water Week. And the session has the very telling title, The Global Observatory on Water and Peace, a global platform for water cooperation. Now, before starting a full discussion on the subject, I would like to say a few introductory words as a person who chaired the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, which has worked in the years 2015 to 2017, and which produced a series of recommendations, one of them being the establishment of a global observatory on water and peace. When we were thinking about the current situation globally in the panel, we recognized the weakness of international cooperation in the field of water and the need for a more dynamic hydrodiplomacy. We described that situation as one lacking agency, not in an institutional sense, but simply as a lack of sufficiently dynamic international action. We therefore propose the creation of a new mechanism, the Global Observatory for Water and Peace. And the main focus of the observatory was supposed to be to facilitate cooperation, in particular in situations of potential tension, in order to preempt its escalation through joint vision of development, confidence building, and exploring options for solutions. We had a vision of an inclusive platform linking partners in water cooperation and fill critical gaps of the regional and global water infrastructure that exists today. In the follow-up to the report, much work was done in a number of regionally defined areas of water cooperation in Africa, in Central Asia, in the Americas, and in the Middle East. And I'm very pleased to see that a number of participants in this discussion have been involved in these activities in the past years. Our vision that we have started to put in practice has been to develop the Global Observatory on Water and Peace as a network of partners, some with a long tradition in water cooperation, some with more recent experience and analytical capacity. Institutional rigidity has to be avoided, and specific features of different regions, different water situations had to be taken into account. Now, officially, the Global Observatory for Water and Peace was launched at the 5th Arab Water Forum at the Dead Sea in Jordan in 2018. And then we have brought together 6 regional partners and 4 societal partners representing the women's initiatives, youth media, and local voices. And Geneva Water Hub was very much at the center of this activity in several capacities. First, as the regional partner that represents the experience of important parts of Europe. Secondly, as a partner representing the potential that the international Geneva, the city which is a home of many international organizations, represents. And it's important to understand that Geneva Water Hub also served in the past as the secretariat of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. Now, the Geneva Water Hub continues today to help as the secretariat of the Global Observatory for Water and Peace. It is at the center of a global network of networks, if I may put it this way, the nodes that make up the Global Observatory. The Global Observatory on Water and Peace is a global platform open to all those working on advancing water and peace building. We would like to invite all those interested among the participants today to join us. Some of our partners will present their areas of analysis, their experience, and other work today. The Geneva Water Hub will comment based on their experience. And I wish to emphasize one important feature before concluding. It is important that we understand the essence of permanent consultations that are needed to promote water cooperation. These consultations could be either broad-based or more specialized. They can be either public or organized more closely as a safe space format. They should always be patient and persistent. Water issues are long-term issues and require a lot of work. But we should be prepared that once the conditions are ripe, the Global Observatory of Water and Peace can help facilitating the process towards an agreement. I would like to mention that very recently, an agreement on the cooperation of the Senegal-Mauritanian Aquifer was concluded. The agreement was reached on 28 September this year in Geneva by Senegal, Mauritania, Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau. And this agreement is one recent example and a case in point. So today we are starting an important discussion on the Global Observatory on Water and Peace. We shall have a number of very experienced participants. I would like to especially welcome Álvaro Umania, who was vice chairman of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace and who continues to be a critical actor in the development of Global Observatory. I'd like to mention Caroline Peloton from Geneva, from the Geneva Water Hub, who is managing the processes around various initiatives in this context, and Natasha Karmi, a political advisor who has been particularly focusing on the region of the Middle East, in addition to other projects that the Geneva Water Hub is pursuing. With this introduction, I would like now to ask Ms. Caroline Peloton to give us a brief presentation on where we are with the Global Observatory on Water and Peace, and after that, we shall continue with the work of the panel. Caroline.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Danilo. The establishment of the Global Observatory, as was just mentioned, with the aim of facilitating, promoting, and energizing diplomatic efforts in order to leverage water for comprehensive peace, is one of the key recommendations of the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace, which the Geneva Water Hub is implementing and ensuring as its secretariat. The Global Observatory for Water and Peace aims to make water a powerful tool to stimulate regional cooperation in order to reinforce global outreach, promote peace, and to break the silos. Inclusive, it ensures a top-down and bottom-up approach on regional perspectives and problematics. The Global Observatory for Water and Peace is an action-oriented global network focusing on hydrodiplomacy and bringing together stakeholders to address sensitive issues and think about practical solutions by facilitating dialogue through safe spaces. It also contributes strongly to the global advocacy on the use of water cooperation for peace. Multiform, flexible, and innovative, this observatory is not a new institution per se, but is designed as a network of existing partners or institutions working on water cooperation, displaying on the one hand great analytical capacity to understand the complex issues of water, and on the other hand have the diplomatic qualities to address sensitive issues with an international recognition and political neutrality. It is open for new partners committed to the water and peace agenda. The observatory, as you can see on this schematic drawing, is composed of regional nodes and societal nodes. Regional nodes reinforce global outreach, adhere and promote the philosophy of the Geneva Water Hub as central node. Regional nodes have been formalized with the Polo Dakar for West Africa in Senegal and with the Organization of the American States for the Americas. In Russia, Central Asia, and in the MENA region, the regional nodes consist of partnership of experts and or several institutions, such as the Issam Faris Institute of the American University of Beirut for the MENA region. The observatory also benefits from the perspectives and visions from global societal nodes, such as the YORS, through the World YORS Parliament and the International Secretariat for Water, through the media in the form of the Water Diplomat and from the panelists from the Global High-Level Panel on Water and Peace. It also takes into consideration the gender approach with the initiative on empowering women in water diplomacy in the MENA region, and is inclusive with a bottom-up approach, promoting and amplifying local voices, addressing local hydrodiplomatic challenges, and highlighting local initiatives. By the end of this year, the first report of the Observatory on the developments and/or trends in relation to the global water architecture of the 21st century will be published. And during this session, the Geneva Water Hub and its partners will share with you some of the key reflections contributing to this first analytical report. I would like now to welcome Dr. Hisham Bahit, Professor of Water Resources at Cairo University. Dr. Bahit is the coordinator of the Water Engineering and Environment Bachelor Program and the executive coordinator for the Shared Water Resources Diploma. He's also a consultant to the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation and the Nile River sector. Dr. Bahit, could you please present the institution and share with us the reason why Cairo University is interested in becoming a partner to the Global Observatory for Water and Peace? Dr. Bahit, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for this introduction, and I'm welcoming everybody in the workshop. So allow me to shed some light on our interest in the Global Water Observatory. Very quickly, Cairo University Faculty of Engineering, we founded in 1816, so 205 years ago. We are currently located in the same location since 1905. We have 14 scientific departments, 15 undergraduate credit hour program, and we have about 15,000 undergraduate students and about 3,000 postgraduate students. And the department that I belong to that are very interested in the work of the Global Observatory is the Irrigation and Hydraulic Engineering Department, which we have currently about 17 emerite professors, 6 full tenure track professors, 12 associate professors, 19 assistant professor, and 15 teaching assistant with master and with bachelor degree. Our main interest, research interests cover all the aspects of water and environment. And we found that the work of the Global Observatory is very interesting for us. And we are very keen to be part of this. Especially, I need to shed the light on 2 programs that are operated under the supervision of our department. The first one is the undergraduate program, which is Water Engineering Environmental program, which contain students from different in the regions, and it offers the first bachelor degree, not in civil engineering as usual, but in focusing on water and environment. And the second program, which is on the right-hand side, which is a postgraduate diploma. It's named the Shared Water Resource Diploma, which a postgraduate that's offer diploma in shared water resources for mainly the Nile Basin countries, as well as the countries from the region. So we are, every year we are receiving different people from the region and from Nile Basin. The topics cover the different engineering aspect and also hydropolitics and international law. So with these 2 things, I'd like to just focus a little bit more on why we are interested in the Global Water Observatory. So our mandate, and we are working on applying the water as an instrument for cooperation concepts. And also we are trying our best to endorse the role of water as a common binding instrument to avoid the conflicting. And one of our main objectives also is to promote the water peace agenda. So if we look to this part on the left-hand side, it's very cross-correlated with the role of the Global Observatory for Water and Peace, and the aspects of building capacity and knowledge sharing, and to be active engagement in the reshaping of hydropolitics global agenda is one of our interests. That's why we are very interested with the Global Observatory of Water and Peace, and to be to be part of this great work that's already have been started. So this is in brief my intervention for this part of the workshop, and allow me to change hat a little bit and take the role of moderating the first session. So our first session will be giving some insight about the themes tackled by partner in the first annual analytical report. And without further ado, I need to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Alvaro Orana. He is the Senior Research Fellow at Tropical Agriculture Research and Higher Educational Center. His Excellency was the Costa Rica First Minister of Environment and Energy, and also he is the Vice Chair of the High-Level Panel of Water Peace. Also with his background in environmental engineering and economics, he will shed some lights on the collaboration that he conducted in his team in Guarani Aquifer Accord. So Dr. Oliveira, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It is both an honor and a pleasure to be with you today to deal with a very important topic for us, which is the Guarani Aquifer Accord and a cooperation program that we wish to establish with two other continents. For too long, groundwater was not considered a priority in international law, and groundwater resources were addressed incidentally or indirectly as part of surface waters, or not mentioned at all. Today, we feel the pressing need to address aquifer agreements throughout the world. The Guarani Aquifer Accord, signed a decade ago between Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay, represents a plan for the multiple, sustainable, equitable, and reasonable use of the waters of the Guarani Aquifer system, the second largest in the world. It pledges to prevent significant harm to this vast and unique natural resource spanning the 4 countries in South America. It is highly significant because it is one of the few transboundary agreements that has not arisen out of conflict, but rather it was signed in a preventive mode. The Guarani Accord is the first regional treaty to be modeled after the International Law Commission's draft articles on transboundary aquifers of 2008, which addresses confined aquifers that are outside the scope of the UN Watercourses Convention of 1997. In December 2008, the UN General Assembly adopted Resolution 63/124, the Law of Transboundary Aquifers, which symbolizes the international community's recognition of the importance of transboundary aquifers and the need to regulate their use and protection. Although it has no legally binding effect, it represents the first legitimized instrument by the UN General Assembly that deals with transboundary aquifers. The signing of this agreement was influenced by several events, including the conclusion of the Guarani Aquifer project, which provided an important technical foundation, the adoption of the above-mentioned resolution by the UN General Assembly, and the ruling of the International Court of Justice in April 2010 in the case of the pulp mills in the Uruguay River between Uruguay and Argentina. The Accord has provision for exchanges of scientific and technical information, notification, consultation, direct negotiations, referral to a joint commission once the Accord enters into force, and for the evaluation and recommendations in case of dispute. Taken together, These procedural requirements and provisions of the accord in favor of diplomatic and political resolution of future disputes over the use or protection of water may forestall the need to resort to litigation in international courts or tribunals, which is both costly and lengthy. The Guarani Aquifer Accord was originally signed in Santa Fe, Argentina on August 2nd, 2010, and it entered into force on November 26, 2020. In 2021, the authorities of the Guarani Aquifer Accord sought the Organization of American States and the Geneva Water Hub for support in the development of the Secretariat and special committees under the Accord. The Geneva Water Hub and the OAS proposed an initial exchange among the three different aquifer treaties to take place at the World Water Forum in Dakar in 2022. The purpose of this effort is to establish an exchange of experiences between the aquifers agreements in three continents: the Franco-Swiss Genovese aquifer in Europe, the Senegal-Mauritanian aquifer in Africa, and the Guarani aquifer in South America. The session will bring together representatives of the three aquifer treaties to exchange experiences, lessons learned, relevant committees, and other institutional arrangements, data sharing, stakeholder involvement, and peace-building opportunities. It is expected that this section will be the start of a longer-term collaboration among the different aquifer treaties. We are looking forward to this exchange and its considerable potential throughout the world. Due to time constraints, we are not able to present another critical issue on which we have been working throughout the Americas: the devastating effect of climate change is having in water resources for the entire region, with prolonged droughts, frequent floods, and the impact of hurricanes and storms. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor, for this very nice insight about the work that you have done. And indeed, the effort of exchanging the experience is one of the very important issues that cope with the role of the observatory. Fortunately, the part of the climate change, we have an expert from this side, and he is our next speaker. So our next speaker, Dr. Nadim Faragallah. He is the director of climate change and environment program at American University of Beirut, Isam Faris Institute. And his major contribution in research in the field of impact of climate change on human settlement and activity, and the impact of climate change on security, the nexus of water, energy, food, and climate change. So, Dr. Faragallah, could you please shed some light on your contribution in this regard? The floor is yours, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Hisham. I'm very privileged to be participating in this panel. It is an interesting and opportune time for us to be working on this with all that's going around us. What I want to do is very quickly go through what we had researched for the first report. And if I may share my screen, allow me just to put it up. I want to look at the civil society role in the water sector and what has been happening in the Levant. Just very quickly, a few years ago, a few months ago and a couple of years ago, there was a big issue in southern Iraq regarding water quality in Basra. Demonstrations broke out, and water was at the core of these demonstrations, which reflected other political issues that the people of Basra, and later on, which the demonstrations spread all the way up to Baghdad. It resonated with other issues. But as you can see on this, water was an issue, electricity was an issue, and also food. So there you go, your water, energy, food. Water was the issue. Poor water quality put people in hospital. In Jordan, these are the three cases we looked at. I'll address that. In Jordan, 2 years ago, there was a huge flash flood, unanticipated. It washed away a school bus, killing 18 school children. And that was a tragedy. There were muted demonstrations or dissent about, what happened, why were there not any warnings, how could the government let this happen, etc. And in Lebanon, with all the turmoil Lebanon was going through, a core problem was the government's poor track record in water supply, which was polarized around a dam that was being built south of Beirut. All of this got the civil society up in arms. So when we looked at the three cases, and we thought, what are the main takeaways? We found that there is a huge role that water plays in the contested relationship between citizens of the Levant and authorities. The lack of trust, the lack of inclusion, etc. This is reflected in the lack of informing and consulting by the public authority. Public authorities do not include people in their planning, development, and operation and maintenance matters. It's a top-down totally, it's a diktat. What we found interesting, though, was that when governments accede to international agreements, especially on water, this impacts their performance in terms of good water governance. So there is better governance that is associated with these agreements, and this is a co-benefit. If we look at the water's role, governments really must rethink where water can be a unifier rather than a divider, and bringing in people into discussions and engaging them as public engagement early on and through the operation and maintenance is critical. We can see this in Lebanon, where the government is now unable to purchase fuel for diesel to operate pumping stations, or they cannot, there is no electricity that's being supplied, very intermittent. Had this been talked to with the people before and engaged earlier, these problems would have been better understood. And accession to agreements is really very helpful in the effective implementation of good water and other sectoral governance matters. It eradicates, this helps eradicate the major scourge of the region, which is corruption and vested interest. So when we accede as governments to these agreements, this sort of knuckles down the governments to reduce this corruption. And it also builds in to the way governments operate public consultation processes, not only on water issues, but then it can transcend. So these are the basic elements that we found. And then I turn it back to you, Hisham. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nadeem, for sharing these thoughts. And I'd like to, at this junction, introduce and hear from the board member of the president of the European Youth. So I'm invite Ms. Hasmek Burgan to shed some light on their contribution. Ms. Hasmek is a professional in the solar energy and environmental management field, and she holds MBA from University of Netherlands, and she was a fellow of US State Department Exchange Group. So Ms. Hasmek, the floor is yours to give us some insight from you.
Good morning, good afternoon. I would like to express, first of all, our gratitude to the Geneva Water Hub, the Global Observatory on Water and Peace, and partners for giving us, youth, this exceptional opportunity to discuss and express our views about this very important topic. As you know, the new 2021 IPCC report comes to confirm the ideas and propositions presented in the report, A Matter of Survival by the Global Observatory for Water and Peace. One of the most important conclusions of this IPCC new report is that continued global warming is expected to further intensify the global water cycle, including its variability, global monsoon precipitation, severity of wet and dry events. This could mean that food security is threatened in parts of the world where agriculture relies on predictable rainfall patterns. The report also warns that heavy rains could become more frequent and intense, that droughts will increase in some areas, that fires will become more frequent, and the oceans will be warmer and more acidic. Climate change could increase fragility in all regions of the world. So it is essential that decision makers consider all these climate change projections related to conflict trends, food security, public health, so that adaptation and mitigation efforts are more effective and do not exacerbate the risk to safety. The youth of our water parliaments from different parts of the world share the same concerns about the water and security issues and are committed in finding and implementing solutions. Our youth contributed to different chapters of the report of the GOWP, and the youth of Latin America prioritized participation to the social and political agreements for making up the negotiation agenda for better transboundary cooperation between Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay. The youth of Central Asia highlight the importance of cooperation and guidance from professors and mentors for expanding their knowledge on the IWRM and development of soft skills of youth. The youth of MENA region link water and sustainable agriculture practices and see livelihood opportunities for the youth. Using water efficiently is the only way to go, and the investment in agriculture, biotechnology can assist to mitigate water scarcity. European youth are standing for peace, environmental sustainability, and humanitarian principles in all parts of the world, beyond political boundaries, in the European Union, in the larger Europe. We believe that water resources should be managed on a democratic basis, including young people and, in general, citizens, participation in decision-making processes. The human right to water needs to be the top priority when making decisions beyond political boundaries, especially during armed conflicts and in armed conflict zones. Unfortunately, in some parts of the world, water is used as a weapon, as a tool to put pressure on the other side, and it can trigger an armed conflict. When water is a target, it can lead to humanitarian catastrophe during and after the armed conflict, as we can see in different parts of the world, including in the South Caucasus, in Nagorno-Karabakh. Strengthening multilateralism by uniting all our efforts and using water for peace will help to increase stability in the European Union and European neighborhoods. European youth in water can take the initiative as non-state actors in facilitating dialogue and cooperation on sensitive topics and as pioneers in preventing future conflicts. European youth in water can be involved in the implementation of the tools as well, such as the Geneva list of principles on the protection of water infrastructure. So by this way, I express the views of youth from Europe and all parts of the world. So we are open to a cooperation with you, and I'm very glad to have this opportunity of dialogue with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very informative discussion and bringing the opinion of the youth. Indeed, this is what we really looking forward for. And I believe at this junction, since this is all about the first annual analytic report of the Global Observatory for Water and Peace, so we need to hear a little bit from Geneva Water Hub. So we have with us engineer Natasha Hermy, which is the representative for Geneva Water Hub. Engineer Natasha has engineering background and master's degree in hydrology and for environmental management. And she joined the Geneva Water Hub since 2018, and she contributed to the establishment of the Global Water Observatory, and also the development of Women, Water, and Peace agenda. Prior to this, she was working as a policy advisor to the Palestinian negotiation support. So with this very high profile, the floor is yours, Natasha, to hear a little bit from you.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. It's really a privilege to be taking part, in the panel, but also in the session with many distinguished experts from around the globe. As Dr. Danilo mentioned in his opening statement, Geneva Water Hub has two hats. It's both a partner to the Global Observatory and it's also the Secretariat. Accordingly, the analysis that is conducted by the Geneva Water Hub is actually multi-leveled. So it includes the global, European, international Geneva, meso-institutional, and the local levels. Similar to the European Youth Parliament, the main area of analysis of our report is the current and the potential role for multilateralism in the promotion of water in peace building and in also bridging this water, peace, and security agenda. Now, we do recognize that although recently multilateralism is questioned in terms of its ability to leverage persistent problems, including, among others, the rising inequality, the rising migration, social fragmentation, job insecurity, some of which are actually associated with the globalization and automation. Yet, we think that in a globalized world with globalized problems, including climate change, COVID-19 pandemic, migration, conflicts, cybersecurity, among others, multilateralism does remain an effective tool for preventing diplomacy generally, and in our analysis, for water diplomacy more specifically. So within this framework, multilateralism processes are actually conducted in a multi-level perspective. And that is why in the report, we touch upon these different levels. We start with a brief overview of the UN system's existing capacity to leverage water for peace and look into what opportunities might lie ahead during the upcoming 2023 UN conference on the midterm comprehensive review of the water decade. On another level, the report actually analyzes the role of Geneva International in supporting multilateralism through the already existing mechanisms, including the legal framework that is provided by the 1992 UNTE Water Convention, looking at the role of transboundary cooperation in regional stability, the current status and the implications of the implementation of the UN Agenda 2030 in the context as it relates to the water, peace, and security agenda. And in that, also looking at the reports on the SDG indicator 6.52 on the proportion of transboundary basin area with an operational arrangement for water cooperation. We've given special attention to the need for meso institutions like river basin organizations. There is a need for institutions that could link the regional level and could contribute to regional stability. We have conducted an analysis of what future river basin organizations would need to look like, given that these RBOs need to face challenges that are related to existing political mandates, but also to geopolitical constraints, and be involved in the facilitation of complex participatory processes. Finally, there is a need to reconnect with the local voices to be able to understand complex processes to water conflict and cooperation. We have conducted work on this with our partners in the case of the Sahel, and in the report we elaborate on the impact and the process of involving the local voices. In conclusion, there are multiple challenges that are related to the conduct of multilateral processes, and this we do recognize. Yet there are also multiple platforms and tools of support. We believe that the Global Observatory on Water and Peace is actually an inclusive tool that contributes to provide regional capacities, it facilitates ongoing processes, and it supports the water and peace agenda in a multilateral perspective. Thank you, Dr. Hisham.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I really appreciate all the panelists, the distinguished panelists. I was a little bit scary at the beginning that we will not be able to make it in that time. Actually, we did it just in time. So we are exactly on time, and we have 10 minutes for question and answer. So I would open the floor for the participant to ask our distinguished panelists if there are any questions. So would you please use the raise hand tool in front of you, and I'll just open the floor to the questions. So the floor for you for questions, participant. Is there any common questions? First, yes. So we'll start with Daniello, please. Go ahead and present the questions, and who are you pointing the question for? So we'll, Daniello, please, go ahead.
Unmute, okay. Am I unmuted? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
very good. All right, I have a question for Dr. Nadim Farajala. You know, he gave us a very interesting and convincing analysis of the interlinkages in the, you know, water, peace, security, food, and all these elements in the context of Lebanon. My question is, to what extent is this line of thinking or this analytical outcome known and shared within the policy-making community in Lebanon? Obviously, these are very serious problems and would require very serious effort to address them. We are basically aware of the difficulties which are now, you know, burdening Lebanon. But nevertheless, I would like to ask, what is the kind of awareness that exists among the policymakers in the country? Thank you.
Shall I answer or wait for any other?
If you allow me, I'll just take the couple remaining questions from Maximiano and Khatim, then we'll open the floor for the answer. So, Maximiliano, please. Dr. Maximiliano.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like to address my question to Hasmik, who mentioned some interesting ideas about the youth. During many years, not only working at OAS, but also here in Central America for the integration system of Central America, we dedicate a lot of efforts to including the youth into the decision-making process for water. So my question exactly is how they could see, what kind of vision do you have to really guarantee that the youth participate not as a kind of cosmetic type of part of society, but an integral part that help us to reach the right decisions for the future, which is theirs. So this could be one of the question. And the other one is just a comment regarding some of the comments made by some of the speakers regarding climate change. And one of the things associated to water and climate change is the issue of attributions. Not many people in the world talk about this famous chapter in IPCC reports talking about the real attributions to what is climate change. And this could be a very important determinant for future investment and cooperation in the future from banks and other sponsors of activities around the world. So I think that it is important that when we talk about safe spaces and the possibility to address some issues of climate change and water, we take into account on what is associated or attributed to climate change in order to be more successful in the way to bring investments, not only cooperation, but also investment from different sources to the country. So that's a comment on the side. Thank you very much.
So I will start answering these couple of questions, then we'll have second round with the other two remaining questions. So Dr. Nadim and Hassan, please.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Danilo, for your question. The linkage has become in Lebanon, very apparent to the blind even, that energy and water are intimately interlinked. Water and food is definitely, it's innate practically. But energy and food, we've always suffered from it in Lebanon because when the electricity used to go out, our refrigerators won't work. We will not get any, the food will spoil. However, on a policy level, now the water authorities are begging, literally, donors to support them in terms of just keeping afloat and surviving. This is in a way reflective of what's happening in Iraq as well. Iraq's electricity sector is being bombed by terrorists, and the electricity towers are brought down, and this has also led to water shortages. The issues in Basra was that there was poor water management. But in Lebanon, the policymakers are more and more realizing that there is this intricate link and we should work on it. We are in a very, if you will, rapid state of flux. Things are changing practically every hour, not even every day. So this is always at the back of mind of people. Electricity is always at the back of mind of people, as well as water. So these have become front and center in any discussion that we're having, locally and in the region. Thank you.
Maximiliano, thank you very much for the question. From my side, so first of all, when you speak about your participation, there are different levels of participation. All starts from the consultation, from simple consultation, or giving the youth a floor to speak about it. But the other levels of that we can call meaningful participation are more than it. So for me, in my opinion, the most important, important level of participation is giving youth responsibility for decisions that they participate in making, or also participation in solutions. But before coming to giving them the responsibility, we need to make sure that they are specialized, that they are educated, they are well prepared to be in the process. So first of all, like education, that preparing specialized youth, and then secondly, giving them the responsibility and helping them to participate in solutions in different projects. One of the examples in general of youth participation is the involvement of youth in the councils, in the river basin management councils, but it also depends of the region, in which level youth participation is in different regions. In Central Asia is different. The challenges that you face is different. In Europe, it is different. So we need to acknowledge these differences of youth participation, and then, of course, move forward to achieve this shared responsibility and shared participation to the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have more couple of questions. Dr. Khatem Kiraz, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
No, voila. Okay. Hello, everyone. It's not really a question. I just have to mention something about the aquifers and the shared aquifers. I just would like to mention an aquifer in Africa, which is a very particular aquifer because it is made of fossil waters, whose consultation mechanism exists since 2002. And I think it could be very interesting to look at it because it is shared by Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. And it is an example of what can be done in terms of consultation between three countries and also in terms of sharing data, which is rather rare in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the information, and this is definitely will be one of the take notes that we will take it. So we have also Mr. Rahi Afghani. Go ahead, please.
Shukran, Doctor. The question is for Hasmik. I'm very intrigued by your idea of including youth in decision-making processes when it comes to water decision-making processes. I work for UNDP at the regional hub here in Amman, so responsible for the Arab states. And we have this project, it's a global project, but also a regional project on youth and building the youth capacities for the last 7 years or so, making sure that they are actually equipped for the workforce, but also to be civically engaged as well. So now we are migrating from that one part of building their capacities, and now it's no longer enough of just building their capacities. You need to bring them inside the corridors of the decision-making processes. That is, in the municipalities, local government, so they can actually be civically engaged. How would you do something like that when it comes to water-related decision-making processes? Preferably, obviously, in our region here, in giving that the whole Arab Spring was sprung based on youth disenfranchised with all government level in the region, but also not being part of that decision-making process. So I'm curious about that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the last question, we will have it from Mr. Riyad. So go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for all these very interesting presentations. My question or my comment more to my dear friend, engineer Natasha Karmi, on the obstacles, this collaboration and cooperation between all these sectors, agriculture, environment, planning, water authorities in my region, which is a very, very conflictual area where the conflicts are the main problem. But what is the real obstacle for having an effective cooperation between all the sectors, agriculture, environment, and water authorities and the Geneva Water Hub? Is it a problem of or a question of trust, or is it a problem of absence of this political will? I would like really to know with this we can move forward all together, we the politicians, decision makers, and Geneva Water Hub. Thank you. Over to you.
So thank you. I will give the floor to the panelists very quickly in just 2 minutes because we run out of time. So the floor is yours. Start with Hasmik, please.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering the first question was for me or not. Thank you very much for this question. Of course, it's a challenge for in all parts of the world, especially to this. Not upside down, but when we start to work from bottom up, from trying to make sure that youth will be presented. My receipt for that cases is acknowledging the benefits that you bring into the table and build upon their advantages, upon their things that they are very strong in. For example, you are very strong in innovation. They are very strong in digital tools, in building bridges between government and society. So these are just free that I mentioned, but there are many other benefits that you have and with their nature, with their energy. So we need to build upon these advantages and and acknowledge that they can create value and for decision makers. When they will see that, they themselves will ask you to participate.
Okay. Natasha.
Yeah, well, thank you, Riyadh, for your question, and it's a pleasure to see you, joining us in the session. I think the answer to your question is exactly the kind of analysis that we've conducted with Nadim for the MENA region. Even in the absence of a political will, I think this relationship, the contested relationship between the citizens and the authorities is very important. And if we were able, to transform this relationship into a positive one, where key decision making on issues of transboundary nature, although they are of a political nature, but they have an implication on the livelihood of the citizens. If the citizens are involved in the process, if they are informed, if they are consulted, then we would be able to overcome this lack of political will, because then the decision will not be solely in the hand of one stakeholder, but then it would be able to be, shared, both in terms of decision making and both in terms of taking it forward. So I hope this has answered your question.
Thank you so much, Natasha. At the end, I'd like to thank you, all the participants, and thank all the panelists for making a good job for the timing. And it is my honor to be with these high-level panelists. With this, I shift the gear to the second moderator, my colleague, Dr. Nadim. The floor is yours for the second part of the session.
Thank you, Dr. Hisham. Thank you, everyone. Zaytoun, I don't know if we can hold off the questions a little bit until we're done with our session here. This will allow us. You'll be first in line for that session. This part of the session of the talk today, we are privileged to have a very wide, diverse group of people that have varying experiences that can enrich not only just the water aspect, but the peace building and how they are peace building and water are interlinked, and what peace building can bring or water can bring into peace building. So without taking too much time, I know we are a little bit pressed on time. I would like, and I will keep time, please, if you don't mind. I guess it's gentlemen here. We're all one set of gender. Dr. Guy Bonvin, who is a Swiss Special Envoy for Water in Central Asia at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs with the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. Guy, would you please take us through our discussion in the next 4 minutes? The floor is yours. Guy is muted, and okay, I unmuted him. Guy, you need to unmute yourself, please. Aha, there you go.
And unmute the video as well. Can you also open the video, please?
Yes. I will ask Quentin. Quentin.
No, now he can. Now he can.
Okay.
Okay, good evening to everybody. Mr. Chairman, thank you for this nice introduction. Estimated colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm greeting you out of Tashkent, being in my capacity of Special Envoy in Central Asia. So allow me some excuse for the background decor, but my hotel room tonight. Let's first say that I'm very pleased here today or tonight to express the Switzerland's full support to the Global Observatory for Water and Peace. This observatory is actually a unique platform launched in 2018 to bring forward the recommendation of the high-level panel of water and peace, and also to have a local declination of this panel. The observatory is fully aligned with the Blue Peace Initiative. I mean, this water diplomacy initiative conducted by Switzerland, and which puts water as an enabling factor for peace, stability, which are the foundation of the socio-economic development and vice versa. So in the view of Blue Peace, what we expect from the global water report is to be able to anticipate the opportunity where to use water as a bridging opportunity to address conflict and tension, and particularly to pinpoint such opportunity for water diplomats in the broad meaning of it, to be an early mover and to build appropriate team. It should also detect the bubble below the surface. It's not always an open conflict which is appearing, but sometimes also bubbling below. With such tools and activities, we wish that the observatory will place this regional reading that we are talking in the previous sessions, the declination of the high-level panel in regional context in first line, and to contribute to the transboundary conversation through peer learnings, and I think what we heard before, through the transfer of the best practice from one regional context to the other one, and from one water-related sector to the other one. It is also important in our view that the ability of such structure to acknowledge and operate different values and mindset system, including legal framework. I mean, for instance, the space where I'm operating now is very far away from the Latin America, or is very far away from Western Europe in terms of mindset and type of agreement. So it is a way to, in our understanding, to stimulate the collective intelligence to address this water management issues. So in that sense, the Global Water and Peace Observatory should be a transmission belt, or to take a Middle East image, a Noria elevating the conversation like water, and to share this water further down the channel. So let me illustrate with these two examples. We were talking before of the Guarani Aquifer. This agreement could be actually the mechanism of this aquifer could be transferred and passed on in different waters by this agreement, and to feed the conversation of those, for instance, like the one on the Aral Sea here in the region of the big rivers. Solutions for aquifer should also bring out of the surface water box, and to address, for instance, water climate change impacts on transboundary water bodies. There is also a huge potential here. And if I take the local perspective, the Central Asia perspective, local in my perspective, the observatory could help to bring together the existing fragmented pieces currently, which are existing currently, and to place them together to add value, to bring those fragmented agreements together and solution in a structure ensemble, serving, for example, the interests of both nomadic and farming cultures. We are confronted to that here, upstream, downstream interest, short-term, long-term interest, local and strategic level, including anticipation to climate change. Therefore, the observatory, in our view, should bring inspiration from other parts of the world, and while being very sensitive to the local approaches, and to address also this triple water, energy, and food security. Another important aspect is the observatory should build to be a source of trust, of trust, providing, for instance, safe space. And the Geneva Water Hub is also providing such things. And the safe space should be, of course, very much well anchored in the region. And this is where actually, if I look, it works very well in West Africa. Maybe here there's a potential of improvement in this local and regional anchorage. So this is an important aspect, and such a space should gather experts to are able to address the water management to contribute to stability and including climate change aspect, but also to be able to address the diverging interests of the players, especially the formal and actual governance. I will conclude on that on the way to the UN Water Decade 2023. It is important to have such an observatory contributing to the conversation and to bring an added value on the scene. So with that, I will wish you a good conversation.
Thank you very much, Guy. Much appreciated. Our next speaker is Max Campos. He is the former director of the Global Water Program at the Organization of American States. And for Max, we'd like, as a group that we're working on this, ask a question. As the Organization of American States has been a partner to the Global Observatory for Water and Peace for some time now, what do you think is the added value for the GOWP and the analytic report that comes out of it to your work? Please,
thank you.
Max.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to thank the Cairo Water Week organizers as well as the Geneva Water Hub for the kind invitation. Just in order to respond to this question, I would like to give some basic context in which the relationship has been built between the Geneva Water Hub and all this process even before under the UN and the OES. As part of this context, and because this is a planetary conference in some way, I would like to put some basic points about the Americas, which is the largest, one of the largest continent with almost 1/3 of the fresh water of the world, and approximately 29% of the 286 transboundary basins that exist in the planet. In this region, we coexist with some of the richest countries in the world, as well as some of the poorest. So this is a region rich in its biodiversity, minerals, agriculture, and all in a continent with great diversity of climates from pole to pole. The Americas is populated by young countries, still like very, very young countries whose main borders are defined by important rivers with limited agreements for sustainable use of water among the countries. So this is one point that could be taken into account when we talk about the observatory. The Organization of American States is the world's oldest regional organization in the world, dating back to approximately from 1889, and includes the 34 countries of the Americas. This is a multilateral regional body focused on human rights, electoral oversight, social and economic development, and security in the Western Hemisphere. The organization is recognized as well as an important forum for regional diplomacy. So this is another point in which we could add value and build a strong relationship with the Water Hub for cooperation. During the last 57 years, the OES, throughout the Secretary for Integral Development, has been working on promoting integrated water resources management along the transboundary basis of the Americas. OES, in partnership with the Inter-American Development Bank, which is part of the Inter-American system, the World Bank, the Global Environmental Facility, as well as several other regional financial and political organizations, has implemented more than 100 large-scale transboundary projects whose focus range from socioeconomic and environmental aspects to human rights and prevention of conflicts. One of these projects is what Dr. Umanya mentioned, the Guarani project that we developed with the World Bank and the Global Environmental Facility. One of the major elements for OES participation in these activities is maintaining peace, democracy, and good neighborhood along the countries by promoting shared actions that encourage integral development for the populations along the borders. It is clear that all of these requires a strong partnerships, not only with local governments, but also with international organizations. The main approach of OES is based on robust scientific knowledge and information that supports solid public policies, which at the same time encourage public and private investments that guarantee positive benefits for population and businesses to make development a sustainable action. Fundamental for the integral development is education. which is a strong area which OEA has a lot of experience working with the main universities of the Americas, including an aggressive scholarship program implemented for several decades. This is another point that I would like to stress, in which we could have the possibility to cooperate with the Water Hub and for cooperation. Last year, we signed the agreement with the University of Geneva and the Geneva Water Hub and the Secretary for the General Secretary for the Organization of American States to operate a hub for the Americas of the Global Observatory for Water and Peace, whose main objective is to analyze the regional situation and look for opportunities for transboundary water cooperation and conflict resolution. One specific effort is to jointly develop a methodology to classify, evaluate, and potentially rate transboundary collaboration efforts in the Americas. A second step would be to apply this methodology to cases of interest to OAS and GWOP. The last scientific report from IPCC have given us one more time a clear indication and alert regarding extreme events that have fundamental meaning for water management. Regions in the Americas like Central America, whose water resources are 60% transboundary, requires new management approaches for increasing the resilience and to potentiate better their opportunities for development. The experiences derived from this alliance between OAS and the Geneva Water Hub for Cooperation and the Observatory will be beneficial not only for the local communities and countries of the Americas, but also for other nations. And this is something that we would like to stress. In the Americas, we could share all this information that we have during these 57 years of projects and information and partnerships. We could share with many other areas and other hubs in order for us to be more or less in the same platform for developed observatory. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Max. We move on now to Anders Jagerskog. He's the Senior Water Resources Management Specialist and Transboundary Waters Focal Point at the World Bank. Anders has also been very active in the Middle East when he was wearing a different hat before the World Bank. Anders, we have this question for you that we formulated and shared. We find that the World Bank finds itself at times working in regions of conflict and tension, and gets involved in sensitive matters, especially transboundary water bodies. Would a platform like the Observatory and the analytical reports it has produced, it will produce, and the coming ones that will be coming out, be useful in and supporting of your work through the engagement? And this is what is also important, the engagement of the World Bank with the relevant partners at all levels. The floor is yours, Anders. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadim. And first of all, let me say it's a pleasure to be part of this eminent panel and this workshop or seminar on behalf of the World Bank. And thank you for the question. It's a long question. I probably could talk very, very long about it. I will try to restrain myself, but touch upon a few points, because I think that the question is pertinent. The World Bank, as I believe most of you are aware, we are active in transboundary basins and also on aquifers, but more so on rivers all across the globe. And if we look at the mandate of the World Bank, we're a development bank. We're supposed to be apolitical. We're supposed to engage in development issues. However, reality is not such that it necessarily you can make a line in between development, security, and those kinds of concerns that we're talking about today, and which the Global Observatory will or are already engaged in. So I'd like to highlight the fact of partnerships for us. Partnerships where we recognize as the World Bank what we can do, and also what we are not perhaps best placed to do. What we see in different geographies where we are engaged is that it's often very effective for us to work closely, whether it's a bilateral, whether it's UN and others, to help facilitate more sort of political economy, hydro diplomacy engagements where we're part, but we're not the driving force as we need to be as apolitical as we can, because that's our mandate. So in that sense, collaboration with the Global Observatory could be very fruitful, not only as a playing a facilitating role, teaming up where it makes sense, and of course context matters tremendously here. You know, where the other actor is engaged and can contribute. I think that's where we would be looking for collaboration, this is to advance processes that may be, you know, challenging as it is often in basins across the globe. I think another lesson I'd just like to highlight is that when we engage, we do it with a long-term view. We've been engaged in the Nile for 20 years, and people on this call know very well that it's not a straight line from A to B. It takes a lot of turns and twists, but I'd like to see, and I'm an optimist by heart. I've been working in the Middle East long, so I guess one has to be. But I'd rather see the glass as half full. Even if we have challenges at present time, if we compare looking back some couple of decades ago, the trajectory is still positive, and that's what I think we see in many of the basins where we're engaged, where you as partners are engaged, and I think the partnership between us and others in this whole process is extremely important. And also, final point from my side, we recognize, looking at the world from the World Bank perspective, that we need to be more and more engaged in fragile and conflict places and environments, as I think you said, Nadim. We have a new so-called FCV strategy, fragility, conflict, violence, that came out last year, that actually lays out sort of the framework for which the World Bank at large can engage with other partners, including humanitarians, including security actors, to be able to advance what we are seeing as, or what are the World Bank goals, the development and poverty reduction of the world. And I think transboundary waters is, and the management of them are key in order for us to be able to deliver on those promises, and also to manage some of those risks that are associated with transboundary water management. I'll stop there, Nadim. I would have liked to speak more, of course, but back to you.
Thank you very much, Anders. Yes, I know there's a lot to be said on all of what the speakers have discussed. There's a lot to talk about. Unfortunately, our time is constricted, and we need to stick to it. Our next panelist is Rauhi Al-Afghani, who is conflict and prevention peace building advisor at the regional hub in Amman for the UNDP. Rauhi, welcome. And as we have discussed a while back, you and I, when we were talking, earlier efforts in peace building, we found, was often operate separately from activities in the water sector. Peace building is in a silo, water sector projects are in a different silo, with little coordination or intrinsic awareness of each other. Can you see the observatory as a bridge? And if yes, how? Rauhi, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Nadim. Thank you for the opportunity. And the short answer is yes. But before I give you the long answer, let me highlight a few issues. I'm not a water expert, but I work on conflict prevention and peace building in the region more, and I look at water related issues as underlying causes for a conflict. But look, I mean, research shows that people have, at least since the 20th century, did not really go to war because of water, at least not yet. there has been incidents and some disputes over water, but not an all-out conflict, even in our region, in the Arab region, where it's plunged in conflict situation. We know that water scarcity can be seen as one of the underlying causes and conditions of crisis or conflict, among other things, such as, security, attacks on identity, lack of freedoms, economic development, and so on, which all can contribute really to people frustration, and that might lead to aggression, and the aggression could lead to violent conflicts. So the linkage between water scarcity and conflict is not that clear. It has to go through these levels in order for it to really get to a conflict or violence. In fact, it is more likely for countries and communities to really to cooperate peacefully over water, since water is really seen as a necessity, which can also be source of cooperation and peace building on local levels, such as community-based cooperation and dialogue processes, but also on a national level, such as we are seeing in the river basins, such as in Nile River. But however, we also know that due to climate change and global warming, which is increasing water and food scarcity and competition over these resources, it is still likely that conflicts over water can happen. This has been highlighted in the report by the IPCC that came out last month, I believe, showing that climate change projection will lead to social tension and conflict at the community level and between countries, also most likely. So what does it mean to us? What does that all mean to us? The issue of water scarcity and risk is a governance issue, and probably shows clear break in citizen government social contract. Nadim, you talked about that in Lebanon, and how is that actually leading to these crisis issues that are really part of how governments are mismanaging resources. We all know that our region here, the Arab region, unfortunately suffers from multiple protracted conflict and weak government that lack ability to equally really deliver services and address issues of climate change and whatever results out of this, which is migration, displacement, dissatisfaction of youth, economic underdevelopment, and so on. So the mismanagement of water resources is in our region is really significantly contributing to inequalities within and between countries in the region. Mitigating the risk of crisis and conflict over water is really the responsibility, or at least the first responsibility, comes at the state. A good governance systems and strong institutions are needed to really intervene on these issues. But this is not enough. Government cannot do it on its own. You also still need to support civil society, the support of civil society and community members as well, in order for you to really address a complex issue like that. So coming to your question and trying to answer it, I think the Global Observatory for Water and Peace can really greatly contribute to mitigating these risks by shedding the light on two main areas. One, understanding, part of the analysis at least will come out, how can government and international community include water-related risk in local development planning and peace-building action. This would need strengthening the capacities of government institutions and local civil societies on the topic of water risk and water peace nexus. Also, it needs to inform local mediators and peace practitioners on issues related to water scarcity and risk to keep an ongoing dialogue between communities and with government. The other area, and I think might be a new area that you might adventure in, which is providing clear guidance into how government, international community and local community can mainstream climate and conflict sensitive approach to water related programs. This does not really mean only do no harm, but it really has to go beyond that by making sure that the outcome of water-related program is really contributing to peace building and development in the country or the region where you function in, or where international community has functioned in partnership with governments. I'll stop here, Nadeem, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Tawhi. I think we're on the edge of time. Last but not least, we're privileged to have Pedro Arojo Agudo as the last panelist on this group. Pedro, the third of your key objectives that mark the main strands of your work during your first term from 2020 to 2023 is to promote water as a key to collaboration and peace. How do you see the observatory and the report in meeting that objective? Pedro, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you to Geneva Water Hub. Thanks to Geneva Water Hub for the invitation, and all of you for your attention. As you said, one of the three challenges that will guide my mandate is focused on promote water as a key to collaboration and peace. And in fact, this will be the issue that will preside over one of my thematic reports in 2023. Well, in many cases, local conflicts are caused by, in this question around water, are caused by large scale projects, generally of an extractive nature, which destroy or at least seriously affect the ecosystems and territories on which the communities living there depend, in many cases violating their human rights. From my experience in this type of conflict, it is necessary to insist on the importance of listening everyone, but mainly and very especially opening space for women as a key to non-violent conflict resolution. Obviously, in this type of conflict, respect for the human rights of these communities and the security of their leaders, who are very, very often threatened, will be essential, fundamental. Well, on the other hand, as we know very well, that the water dispute between regions or countries fuel conflicts that can lead even to wars. However, water, as you have said before, offers reasons and arguments for agreement and collaboration, especially if an ecosystem approach is assumed. Transitioning from the resource approach to the ecosystem approach allows us to move from an approach that invites competition, in this case to appropriate the resource, to an approach that invites collaboration in shared management. If it is a matter of managing a river or an aquifer, in all its richness and complexity, rather than competing for water as a resource, the need for collaborating will emerge. Of course, the benefits and the efforts to be made upstream and downstream, if we are in a river or in one point or another in the territory, if we are talking about an aquifer, are not usually symmetrical. So dialogue and negotiation are necessary. But in the end, collaboration results in benefits for all. I usually use the following example. Let us assume a truck jointly owned by a community. If in a moment a fight were to break out for the exclusive appropriation of the part that each one is supposed to have, or the part that each one could win with the strength he has, in the end, one family would have two wheels and the steering wheel, and another family would have the cylinders of the engine, the brakes, one wheel and a seat. But it would be certainly make more sense to share the use, management responsibility and utility of the truck. as a truck. Well, if we understand the river or the aquifer as a natural ecosystem that provide services to all, if it works well, the challenge will be to organize shared management to enjoy the services it will provide to all. The problems, as I said, come because benefits and efforts to be made downstream and upstream, as I said, used to be not symmetrical, demanding dialogue, negotiation, and compensations. Of course, as I used to insist, it will be important to adopt human rights-based approach as a reference of legal obligation recognized by all, and no less important to open spaces to women's participation following the UN Security Council Resolution 1325/2000 on women, peace and security. Well, in any case, I'm ready to collaborate with this global observatory on water and peace and for learning from you. I'm in my first year of my mandate and I have everything to learn. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We all learn from each other, I guess, and I keep saying when we stop learning, we're dead. That's the only time we stop learning. So
right.
It's good now that we've wrapped up with this interesting perception. I really like the statement move from research approach to ecosystem approach. This diffuses tension. This is mine, this is yours, whereas and brings the collaborative component together. With this, I would like to open the floor to questions. Zaytuna, you had a question way back when. Is it pertinent to this group, or can you send it to the original group? Just to be fair. Zaytun? Okay. Okay. Any?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, Zaytun.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just joined the meeting a little bit late. First of all, I want to thank you all for this very timely, informative meeting. I'm Zaytun Faraj, First Secretary from Iraqi Mission in Geneva. So when I joined the meeting, you, Mr. Nadim, were talking about some problem in Iraq about the water supply and electricity. So I want to just comment on that. Is the time is good for that, or?
If you can make it brief, yes, by all means.
Yes.
But
Okay.
just make it brief so that we can allow others to ask questions to this panel, please.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. I'm here not trying to make the government of Iraq responsible of what's happening, just want to elaborate some reality that we are facing in Iraq. First of all, we are facing climate change as other countries in the region and the whole world is facing. Second, we all know, you may all know that in Iraq, the water supplement, electricity supplement projects has been attacked by terrorist groups for many years. So we have facing this problem since like 2004 or 5. And third, as a downstream country, we are not getting our share from Tigris and Euphrates, and that because of explanation of upstream countries in different ways. So, but what our government is doing in different directions. For example, we are just ratifying the Water Convention, Helsinki 1992, and we are just working with our neighbor countries, Iran and Turkey. We have high-level committees with Turkey. We have very good process negotiation with Turkey, and in the nation level, our government working on electricity, because as we all know, the electricity and water are connected. For example, in Kurdistan region, the dams are using for generating electricity when there's no water, because Tigris and Euphrates having the lowest level of these two rivers in the history now. So the both problems, electricity and water, and connecting, and we are facing both problems in the same time. So I think it's not very fair to put blame on the government totally, but we are working on that, and we hope that all our neighbors and the country of upstream work with us on that. And I just want to elaborate on that points, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Zaytoun. No, we in this we were not laying blame anywhere. But as many of the speakers have noted, issues with water tend to be issues of governance, and these are and this lies at the core of many of our problems in the region. When we don't have appropriate governance of our sectors and how we approach them, we end up with problems. So thank you for coming in and shedding light. Yes, Iraq is in a very difficult situation. By the way, the Blue Peace Initiative, which is supported by the Swiss government and through the Geneva Water Hub and is affiliated with the Observatory, really is working on such issues, or at least has these issues at its core. Turkey and Iraq are partners, so is Iran. Yet to attend the meetings, but the foundation is there for more cooperative and collegial work together. Any questions, please? You were razzled and dazzled and you have nothing else to ask our distinguished panelists? Okay, maybe I can ask the panelists at large. Okay, Maximiliano, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to address my question to Anders from the World Bank, and basically one of the discussions that we have for several years here in the Americas is how to deal with the difference between the countries regarding the transboundary waters that could belong to one or to both countries. One of the approaches that we tried to use, especially for prevention of conflicts, was the development of shared infrastructure. I was inspired a little bit by the Itaipu binational in the south of South America, which is, for me, an interesting example in which the countries get along together because of the great benefit that they receive from this large infrastructure. Is there, under this new strategy of the World Bank, the possibility to stimulate some kind of share projects for infrastructure for multiple benefits between countries? The example could be in the world, because this is what you manage, but if for the Americas, it would be interesting for me to hear. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, let's go, Anders.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you, Maximilian, for that question. I mean, let me try to respond briefly. I mean, the World Bank is often engaged, of course, in support of infrastructure. Generally speaking, regional infrastructure, absolutely. This is something we would, I mean, generally speaking, love to support. Of course, with all the safeguards and what have you in terms of having to do it properly. What we always need to make sure is that the request for a regional infrastructure, if it's, for example, shared between or proposed to be shared between 3 or 4 countries, all of those countries needs to collectively, of course, want to see that infrastructure built. and sort of have an idea of some type of framework agreement on how that will be done. And we have done that in several places in the world. So if countries to come together and approach the World Bank for regional infrastructure project, absolutely, this is something we would generally look positively into. Of course, evaluating as we do with every project in terms of safeguards and standards, etc. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anders. Anybody with any burning question that we can put forward? Okay, that will give us about 5 minutes to wrap up. Natasha, who is going to wrap up? Guy, please go ahead.
Just to react on this comment of this John, not to take the word of the World Bank, but I think it is important to find a systemic value, to find a common goal, a common interest. And when I see, the Blue Peace also invested in the Blue Peace Index, this metrics of cooperation, evaluating the cooperation on river basin. This river basin include the big one like Amazon, like Greater Freight in your region, like Sava rivers and others. The big issue, I think, here, and I take my hat off coming from the economic department at my original capacity, is to find a common interest. And the big rivers is frequently the navigation is a common interest. And if you don't have navigation, what to find solution on agreement. And I think here we heard many times water energy nexus, I would say water energy food nexus. And the big issue is to find a mechanism to include all these aspects, so not just to stick to water, but to have your overall package. And this is where the water diplomacy is a kind of headache, because you need diplomats, you need economists, you need engineer, you need ethnograph and other specialty. So I will again advocate for this systemic infrastructure, but not only one piece, but a network of pieces serving the interests of the basin. And I think just to my knowledge, the World Bank did it in the Sava River. It's a very good example for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guy. We have amongst us quite a few well-recognized participants. I don't know if I want to call out Mara or Mark for any comments on what was said, or if you would like to add anything to that, please jump in. I would love to hear you, Mara or Mark. If not, okay, that's fine with me. Okay. Okay, then I think we're very close to the end of our scheduled times, the added 15 minutes and all that. I turn it back over to Natasha for a wrap up. And really, thank you very, very much, everybody who's participated, especially our panelists. And you've taken time. I know how busy you all are, and different time zones that have been brought together. Thank you, and thank you for the Cairo Water Week for enabling this. Natasha, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadim, and thank you for the moderation of very interesting. Is it mine or someone else's? No. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I personally found the, of course, I mean, having worked with the partners, the first part of the panel, is always very exciting, and for us to share the themes that we have worked on. And, we hope that we have actually, made our guests curious enough to look forward for the full publication by the end of the year. I would like to also, thank our panelists, in the second panel, because most of the reflections that they have made are things that I think that we as partners, we have to consider definitely in the second annual report. Thank you for proposing avenues and opportunities for cooperation. And thank you for encouraging us as we move forward with the Global Observatory. We hope that you would be, willing to cooperate with it and make use of the report. But also, we are an open platform, and it's open for all. So kindly, circulate the information about the observatory. And we hope that we will be able to have more partners to the observatory. I think I speak on behalf of also all of the partners that we are very glad to have all of the panelists, but in particular, we're also glad to have Rauhi with us here, because he is the one that represents the peace camp. And we hope that we will be able to attract more partners from the peace camp in order to be able to, for the second analysis and for the kind of work that we do, really be able to bridge this gap between the two agendas. And I join Nadim, and I think I speak also on behalf of Danilo and Caroline in thanking all of you, thanking also the organizers of the Cairo Water Week for making this session possible. So good evening to everyone, and have a good day for those in the Americas.
Thank you very much.
So, goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Muchas